Hi, Nikhil and Sreejitha.
Hi, Dr. Lal.
Nice to see you here.
We are about to have some coffee. Shall we order one for you too?
Yes, that will be nice.
So I was actually texting my friend. I was actually wishing him luck. He was planning to go abroad and he was planning to write some tests today.
What's it, TOEFL? Because I'm also planning to go abroad and probably I'll take one of those tests too. So can you tell us a bit about these tests?
You mean IELTS and TOEFL?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll be happy to. These two are perhaps internationally most reputed English language tests. IELTS is International English Language Testing System, and TOEFL is Test of English for Foreign Language. Well, these are tests taken by people who desire to go abroad to one of the English-speaking countries, either do higher education or to take up some job. That's the meaning of these two tests.
So how do we actually prepare for that?
Well, I told you these are tests. They test your English skills. You can have multiple skills, but the basic English skills are reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So these are the main components of these two. And these two tests are very structured tests, so that there will be a big amount of objectivity in the result. So they have a particular format in which they ask you questions. So you need to prepare for these tests very well if you want to get good score in that. The coffee has come.
Sir, can you tell us more about preparing for it?
Well, if your English is generally good, you stand a better chance of getting a good score. But that is not enough. As I said, these tests have their own logic, the way in which they expect your answer. TOEFL has its logic, IELTS has its own logic. So you need to prepare keeping that in mind. You have two options. You can go to a training place if there is a good one in the neighborhood, but that is not compulsory. You can also prepare on your own using resources on the internet. You go to the TOEFL website, you go to the IELTS website, and they will have sample material, and they will have all the information about how to go about preparing, what is expected in each part of the test, etc. There are also a lot of videos in YouTube which give you a step-by-step instruction as to how to prepare. Don't think it is a very difficult thing. It requires practice though. Maybe a few weeks of practice will give you a good score in it.
So these two tests are primarily to test your English skills, right?
Yes.
So how do we improve our general communication or general English language?
Well, that's a good question. As I said, even though these tests are structured ones, your basic command over English is very important. So let me tell you, in a state like Kerala, we have a lot of English around us. So we generally have to be confident that we have a good measure of English already. Those who have gone to school, those who have gone to college, and those who have gone beyond that, all these people have reasonable amount of English in them. That's because we hear a lot of English around us, we see a lot of English around us. So every day we see a bit of English everywhere. So English is there in our system, and English is part of our education too. But beyond that, you need to take some effort to improve your command over English. So what we need is not to learn English, but to improve our proficiency in the language, your ability to write in English, your ability to speak in English, etc. So let me tell you from my experience with learning English and with observing other people learning English and years of teaching English, I would say the best method to learn English or to have greater proficiency in English is to read more of English, speak more of English, write in English, and listen English. Let me talk a bit about it so that you'll have greater clarity. Reading. We always say you should read English, but then what do we read? I would say read books according to your level. If you have only a basic level of English, read books meant for little children. For example, if somebody comes to Kerala from outside, like from North India, many workers come, and one of them want to learn Malayalam, we wouldn't give them a Malayalam grammar book, or we wouldn't ask him to start reading with Mayeri Pudayode Theerangal. We would rather ask them to read a book with big letters in it, with small Malayalam words. And next we will ask them to read a simple book meant for children, like Kalikuduka or something. That is how we would do to them. So in our case also, when you want to read simple books. That you need not feel that this is a children's book. You may be 20 years, 30 years, but there is nothing wrong with reading a book meant for a 5-year-old child if you are able to read and enjoy that. The important thing is you should enjoy what you read. That means you will read more. So if you take a difficult book and read only one page a week, you don't benefit. If you take a simple book, you read the whole book in 2 days, you will feel happy, you take another book. And I'm sure that gradually you will go for more serious books with more vocabulary in it, more ideas in it. So in a year or so, I'm very sure you will be able to read English books meant for your particular level of age. There's no rule that you should start with very difficult books. For example, in Trivandrum, there is a public library, there's a children's section. Even if you are a 30-year-old person, go to the children's section, start reading. Once you develop reading habit, it's the best thing that can happen to you. You will just love it and you will never stop reading. So that's about reading. And about writing, reading, and then you need to practice in writing too. I would recommend that you write something every day. How do you do that? You can keep a log. You can write a diary entry every day of what happened that day in a diary or a notebook. Write a page every day in the evening in English, and your English need not be very perfect. You are not going to show it to anybody. So that is one good way of practicing writing.
Sir, as you were saying about writing, do you think writing and typing has the same effect on us?
Well, it depends. If you need to do a lot of writing in your everyday job, suppose you have to do a lot of writing in your office, I would recommend that you actually write in a diary, in a notebook, so that your handwriting will improve, and also you will have more comfort in actually writing. And if you have exams to take, I would say you should have practice in writing. Written exams need preparation in writing as well. Very often we don't do that. If you're preparing for a test or an exam, you can write your own notes in your notebook. But if you don't have that compulsion, as I said, you can keep a log where you write your everyday incidents, 1 page incidents, 1 page or half a page or 2 pages as your mood permits you. But do it systematically. Regarding typing, is if you have no need to write with pen and pencil in your everyday life, perfectly okay to have a log online. You type out and add on to that every day. Don't worry about your correctness, don't worry about your spelling, etc. I'm very sure if you read systematically and write every day, over time your English will naturally improve. You don't need a teacher there. English can be learned without a teacher. Well, that is about reading and writing. About listening, I would say today we have the advantage of having the internet, and you can access many listening video sites and audio sites in your mobile phone. There is BBC channels are there, but you don't really have to go after BBC or any particular thing. Any video in the YouTube which is of interest to you in English related to your topic, something curious to you, listen to that. It need not be about English teaching or anything. It could be any topic. If you're interested in aerodynamics, listen to videos on aerodynamics. If you're interested in cooking, listen to English programs on cooking. Whatever you're interested in, listen as much as possible. The more you listen, it's just like reading. The more language input happens, more language goes in.
So we were talking about writing, reading, and listening, right? So
yes.
We don't really talk in English in the public so much. So how do you practice speaking?
Well, that is one problem we really have to address. We can read because we have many books in Kerala. We can write because you don't need anybody's help for doing that. You can listen because we have all these facilities as we mentioned. But the problem with speaking is all the other things you can do on your own, but speaking implies you need another person. You can't sit at home and talk to yourself. Your parents will suspect that you have something wrong with you. So what you can do is, there will be many people around you who would want to have practice in English. And in Kerala, one funny thing is, when you speak in English, people make fun of you sometimes. Say your English is not good. They say you have jada, etc. You have that. Many students complain of that.
That is true.
I would say that you find a few friends who want to have practice in English. Your spoken English will improve only if you speak. You don't need to go to a spoken English academy for that. You do all those things I said, reading, writing, etc. And you sit together and speak. A group of friends sit together, 3 of you, 4 of you, sit together every day or once and twice in a week and decide to speak on a topic for about 1 hour only in English. That will be an excellent thing. So you form a little community of practice. If you are students in the college, you can do that. If you live in the community, you can identify people and sit together. It will be a socializing tool. You talk about whatever you like, of common interest. If you're interested in driving, talk about driving. If you're interested in sports, talk about sports, whatever. But try to speak only in English. One thing you should remember is never make fun of another person's English. As we discussed last week, There are many varieties, and all need not be very good. So the perfection or whatever near perfection will be arrived only over time. So you need to talk in English. Don't worry about mistakes. Don't go about correcting another person's mistakes. Just speak as much as you can, just like the others do. Do it. Read, read and read. Write, write and write. Listen, listen and listen. Speak, speak and speak. And I assure you, there is no better method of learning English.
So you've been talking for a while. Shall we order another cup of coffee?
Oh yes, my coffee is over. Oh yes, go ahead and order.
So how was the coffee?
The coffee, well, I think they forgot to put sugar in my coffee. It tasted more like a potion.
Potion reminds me of a book that I read in 8th standard. I'm talking about Harry Potter. As I started reading it, I found it very difficult to follow, and I closed that book. Later, I became a big fan of it, and now I've read all of it.
All the Harry Potter books?
Yes, the movies too. They're all amazing.
That's really interesting. I too enjoyed watching the movies, though I haven't read all the books. Oh, great. Well, now that the coffee is over and it's nearly time for us to go, let me conclude picking on Harry Potter books. You said that you tried to read the Harry Potter book, but you couldn't go beyond a page. And I was talking about developing a reading habit. There is something that I'd like to add. You pick up a book and you try to read. You may not find it very interesting in the beginning, but still, read the first page, read the second page, read at least 4 pages. Even if you do not find it interesting, even if you do not understand it much, I would recommend that you read at least 3 or 4 pages. Still, if you find it awfully boring, just leave that book and start another book. Maybe you can pick up the book again a few years later. Never stop reading a book, never give up reading a book after reading just 1 page. Go read 4 pages, 5 pages, because every book is an individual world. You need to get used to it. So in reading habit, that's a very important thing. Let that be the last thing that we discussed today. Take a book. Don't stop if you do not find it interesting. There may be difficult words. Don't run to a dictionary. Go on reading. You will understand the meaning naturally, gradually. So reading is something you have to do if you really want to learn English. Any language for that matter. I would recommend you read a lot of Malayalam books as well. So it was really, really nice talking to you, Nikhil and Sreejitha. And the coffee was nice, though it was a bit like a potion, as I said. Next time perhaps we'll have more sugar in it.